today we're going to take a look at how to use elements with Ableton Live. We're working out of Ableton Live 6, but it doesn't matter what version of Ableton you use. The concepts we're using translate the same way. The three things we're looking at is previewing loops in browser, working with loops in session view, and working with our loops in arrangement view. Now the format of elements that we're using is our WAV format. And the reason we're doing this is because with our WAV format, we have .asd files that are included with every loop that we have. So for every loop you have, there's a .asd file included. Now what this means is when you're using this loop in Ableton Live, you can drag it in and it's going to automatically play at whatever tempo that you have it set to in Live. Whenever Live works with audio, it's got to go through and analyze it and try to learn the tempo. And instead of Live having to do that, we've already created the file so that Live can automatically do that. So you can work with loops even quicker. Now let's go ahead and get started. We'll look at our browser here. You can open and close your browser by clicking this arrow. And the great thing about our browser is instead of dragging a file into Live, we can drag our file from our browser into session view or arrangement view. And it's just a quicker and a little more efficient workflow. So the way the browser works is we can turn our click on, have our click going. We're set to 109 right now. And let's go through and preview a couple loops. Let's start with this one. Let's try this one. Take a look at this one. Now, if you notice, each loop that we played, this one was at 90 BPM. This one was at 112 BPM. This one was at 118 BPM. But you notice that each of these loops played at 109 BPM. And so when working with the Live browser, if you have this headphone enabled, then you can preview any loop in here that's in our elements collection at whatever tempo you've got currently set. So now that we can go through here and listen to all these different samples, let's use one in our session view. So let's go back up to 90, worth it, and let's drag it in. What we have set up here is we've got a section set for song 1 click, and we've got a section set for song 2 loop. And so if we fire this first one, this scene, go over here, we've got our click going. Now this is a great way to use loops really quickly on Sunday morning. If you don't have the time to sit down and make an intricate loop and to add keyboard sounds, or even if you just want a really simple loop to help fill it out and you want it quickly, this is a great way to do it. So we can set up our click track, we can fire that. Now let's say we want the click coming in and then we want to bring the loop in, and we'll bring it in right now and go. And the cool thing about this is using them in session view is that this loop is going to loop over and over and over. So even when it gets to the end of what's actually recorded, Live's going to continue to play it over and over until we tell it to stop. So we can either hit our spacebar to stop it, or what we can do is click this, and our next downbeat of 1, the loop comes out. Now what you notice is when I click 2 the first time, if we have this going, and when I click our second loop, it's not going to come in automatically, but it's going to come in on our next downbeat of 1. Which means there's no issues of the loop coming in a little too early or a little too late, and we can adjust that here. We've got it set to 1 bar right now so that comes in when we want it. Now let's take a look at our arrangement view. We can use the browser in the same way in arrangement view by previewing our loops at whatever tempo we're at, which is great. And let's continue working with this one. We're going to drag it in and we're going to go ahead and play it. And when we play it in arrangement view, what you're going to notice is that this loop's going to play and play, and then once it gets to the end of what's recorded, it's going to stop playing. And the reason this is arrangement view basically works like any recording software. So if you want this loop to play over and over, all you've got to do is drag that to the length you want it to play. Now the way that this is useful is if you want to sit down and actually build a loop from scratch and create your own loop, you can have the loop come in and out of sections, and you don't have to sit down and trigger things like you did in session view. So say our intro is 4 measures long, and so we'll have it go from our first measure to our 4th measure, and then let's say we want to have it come back in here. So if we play from the beginning, let's play it from the very beginning. So you can hear it, and we'll say this is our intro, our band's playing with us, and then we're going to drop to our verse. Right at measure 5 is the start of the verse. So our loop comes out, we've got just our click going, And as we play through the verse, we want our loop to come back in right on measure 9, and here it comes back in. And it's perfectly in sync. We didn't skip any beats, where everything's together. And so the great way is when you're working in arrangement views, you can build your own loops. You can use your elements as little pieces, of the puzzle, to build your own loop. And we actually have another video that talks specifically about creating loops, using elements to create your own loops, and in that we work in arrangement view and live. So check that video out also if you want to learn a little further. But live is a great way to use our elements, and especially because of the session view. The session view is really unique to live, and allows you to use elements really quickly, and you don't have to spend a lot of time during the week creating loops, and it's just a great way to use loops. So this is how you can use our elements collections with Ableton Live.